Hey, I've looked over your portfolio on the various websites, and two things stand out, which I think you could focus on to improve your work. One is substructure, which I'll define that in a moment, and the other, well, I'll wait a moment for the other. But essentially, the thing about drawing is that drawing is putting a line around things. So you can kind of draw where you're putting lines around things as you go, and it results in the figure, and it can be the inspiration can come from different places or the idea or whatever. So that's one way to do it. But I would say that when you're building a figure, basically, in a sense, it's kind of like building a house. So with a house, why do they start? They start with the slab, substructure, and then they build things on top. And basically, if the substructure is uneven or not there, then the house is going to wind up being a bit wonky, right? So with the figure, adding a substructure, or another word is mannequin, is it's another step, right? And as a step, it will add perhaps a little more time to your process, but the results will be better. So there are a lot of different mannequins floating around out there that people use. One is one where it's a lot of balls and cylinders, things like that, which I don't recommend that at all because, it only has to do with outline. It has nothing to do with the underlying substructure, because the underlying substructure for the body is the skeleton, bones, arms, skull, and so on. Now, you can draw figures using skeletons and then flesh them out, and then later either trace off to remove the guidelines or erase them, or draw them in blue pencil, or draw them lightly or something like that. But you see, basically what happens here is that yes, I am outlining things, but I also am very aware of the underlying structure, where the bones come to the surface, bony landmarks, they're called sometimes. And there again, with an arm, knowing that the bone is underneath lets you know where the muscles attach. And again, this is more, see, the muscles attached to this bone, they attach to this bone, that's what moves the arm up. And this is a learning process for sure, but when you do learn how they attach, then you'll have a lot easier time doing difficult angles for shortening, things like that. So let me see. So I used skeleton as a mannequin, but you can also basically do a simplified mannequin and leave the details out, the details of the bone surfaces and so on. You notice what I'm doing here with the arms and legs is that if an arm comes like this, then the forearm doesn't come from here, it comes from here, because essentially it folds under. It's the same thing with the leg, thigh like so. The lower leg doesn't hinge from here, it basically swings around underneath, right? And so that's important to know, and that will help nail anatomical, muscular details later on. But anyway, And then, assuming you've got the understanding of muscular anatomy, then you can drop the muscles over top. Now, I'll go one step a little further into techniques and complexity of how things can work. So there's a lot of ways to design your mannequin. Center of balance is important, which goes right through the pit of the sternum. So you can always design a figure based on the center of gravity, or you can have the center of gravity tilted so the figure is in action, right? Lots of things like that. I won't go into too much detail about that, but basically laying out your mannequin first, you can squiggle sometimes. It can help give you a lot more freedom in terms of your poses that you're drawing. Now, for example, I see in your work that you're doing a lot of poses where there are dynamic arms with muscles, perhaps turning away or holding a weapon or something like that. The anatomy is close to being accurate, but it will be more accurate if you will use a mannequin. And also the thing about the mannequin is, like, if you want to use cylinders on top of it to help give dimensionality, that can really help. So if you've got an arm that is tilted at two different angles, yeah, you can use cylinders to help you figure out which way things are turning exactly. So anyway, I'll leave it there for substructure. And there again, I would just get used to doing simplified mannequins where things are basically in proportion. Oh, one other thing while I'm here. I think about heads is here again. It's like drawing can be, begin with outlining, and then you draw what you know and what you recognize and fill things in and everything. You wind up with an okay head. But here again, the substructure is the skull. So it can pay off big time to just indicate those bony areas first. Because then what will happen when you put in the details, you're not kind of sliding around so much. There's a precision to it that you really can't get doing it the other way, kind of sketching things in and filling things in and so on. And not only that, doing the skull, using the skull can also certainly help with drawing from different angles and so on. So next topic is what we call coherent lighting. And you could call it coherent lighting versus decals. Because what will happen is, a lot of artists will look at another artist, like say they look at Frank Frazetta and they go, oh, that's really neat to put the dark shadow on the kneecap, right? So then they wind up putting the dark shadow on the kneecap on every single figure that they draw, no matter what the angle, no matter where the light source is coming from. And to have the dark shadow on the kneecap means that the knee must be turned at a very certain angle so that when the light is coming down toward it, that it is in shadow. So you can't have light coming from other directions and have the same effect. So what you'll notice about a lot of artists is that they will draw limbs and things, and they'll put in a black shape. I noticed this on one of yours where here's a leg and here's a black shape, and then this leg has got shadow down here. And basically the shadows, there's not a clear light source. And what happens when there's not a single clear light source is that, it can pass for comic art or something like that, but not having the shadows be logical and coherent is going to hurt the dimensionality of the figure. It's just not going to look right. And here again, it's another step to calculate your light source and the shadow patterns, but it's worth it because your figures, your results will be 10 times better. So let me back up to doing a mannequin. All right, I'll put some cylinders on. Just to help with the dimensionality. All right. Now, we could pick a light source from all sorts of angles, above, the side, so on. I'll go ahead and pick from above because that's sort of, you know, an easy place to start because it's like, oh, the sun is above. Well, a cylinder here with the sun from above, the front would be in shadow. The cylinder would cast a shadow down the body. This arm would fairly much be lit, so that wouldn't have much shadow. This one is turning back, so it would basically be in shadow. Here you could get away with the black kneecap. The way the torso is turned down, back, basically this whole area will be shadow, and the whole other leg will be shadow. Right? And then you can go in and put in details and things like that. But basically what you've got is you've got a logical, plausible lighting scheme going on here. Now, of course, we could pick other angles or pick two angles. You can do that as well. But making sure that you know where the light is coming from should stop you from adding in black areas, shadows that basically are not logical or plausible. So let's see. Yeah, basically, when you lay out your figure, what I do often is I'll draw a lamp shape. There's the lamp, right? That's all you got to do. You got your figure here, you draw the lamp, now you know where the light is coming from. So those two things I think are the main areas that would help you a lot to focus on. Substructure, constructing figures, and coherent lighting, so that the shadows are plausible. It will help the dimensionality and the solidity of your figures. So I'll leave it there for now.